to today's change of responsibility and retirement ceremonies. Thank you for joining us today as we bid farewell to the current Command Sergeant Major Bernard McPherson and his wife Margie, and we welcome the incoming Command Sergeant Major Emmet Maunakea along with his wife Angie.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The presentation of bouquets of roses to the spouses of the outgoing and incoming Sergeants Major is a long-standing tradition of the change of responsibility ceremony. Bouquets will now be presented to Mrs. McPherson and Mrs. Maunakea. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now perform the change of responsibility ceremony. The change of responsibility ceremony is a very special event used to mark the official change of position between the most senior enlisted members of the organization, in keeping with the highest traditions and customs of military service. The passing of the unit's colors is the tradition used to designate the passing of authority and responsibility from the outgoing Command Sergeant Major to the incoming Command Sergeant Major. It is traditional yet simple event that's rich in both symbolism and heritage. The very soul of a military unit is symbolized in the colors under which it fights, for they represent not only the lineage and honors of the unit, but also the loyalty and unity of its soldiers. Brigadier General Ostrowski will conduct the traditional passing of the colors, symbolizing the change of responsibility from Command Sergeant Major McPherson to Command Sergeant Major Maunakea. Traditionally, the Command Sergeant Major is the keeper of the colors. The passing of the unit colors from Command Sergeant Major McPherson to Brigadier General Ostrowski represents his final act of service to his commander. The passing of the unit's colors from Brigadier General Ostrowski to Command Sergeant Major Maunakea represents his trust and confidence in passing the responsibility to Command Sergeant Major Maunakea. Acceptance of the unit's colors by Command Sergeant Major Maunakea from Brigadier General Ostrowski symbolizes the Command Sergeant Major's act of allegiance to the commander.
When I went through the list and I held the interviews, I was looking for a couple things. And those things are embodied in Command Sergeant Major McPherson. So if I was going to replace him, I needed to find the right guy. Because this command is used to having the right guy. Welcome to the team. Thank you.
I really do look forward to working with just all the people I've met so far in PEO. Some have been green suiters before, some haven't, but the great thing is they all have a focus, which is making our soldiers as lethal as possible, that we can go ahead and get the job done. Thank you.
Sergeant Major of the Army, Mrs. Chandler, Major General Proctor, General Ostrowski, officers, senior executives, sergeant majors, thank you. Thank you for letting me be here, sir. Thank you for letting me participate in this ceremony. There's 3 great reasons why I want to be here. 1, he was my sergeant major, and I can't think of a better place to be than to celebrate with him and his great family. 2, it gets me out of the Pentagon. And 3, it gets me out of the Pentagon. So it's a great day to be here. My name's Mark Spindler. I'm currently on the Joint Staff, J5 Strategy. I know. And and Sergeant Major and I had the opportunity to serve 2 command tours together. And he has been my hero and my mentor for a long time. So this is a great thrill for me to be here. I don't know how to capture 33 years of service. I'm not smart enough nor good enough to do that. So nor will I try in these few moments, because I need to hand the microphone over to the person you really want to listen to. And my wife couldn't be here. She's in St. Louis, but she knows the McPhersons very well, and she did say, whatever you do, try and arrange that you speak first. Don't follow the sergeant major. You look like a dummy. And so it was bad enough I had to follow the general, but I'll do the best I can. I'm certainly familiar with his resume and what he's done, but I got to tell you, from my perspective, there's nothing that really jumps out of there. It says, hey, that's kind of unique. That's kind of different. There is a theme, though, of 33 years that said, this is 33 years of a troop commander. This is the embodiment of the art of leadership right here. For 33 years, he didn't sit behind a desk. He commanded soldiers at the very smallest levels, the smallest teams, all the way up to this large organization and over a 5,000-man brigade in combat. And it's not that he just did those things, it's how he did it that makes him so unusual and so unique and so profound in his contribution. I'm reminded of 2 occurrences that I had. Now, he won't remember them. It won't resonate with him, but it did with me. And the general kind of mentioned it a little bit. When I was a battalion commander, Mac was coming in near the end of my command. This was during the time of Iraqi freedom had just started. OIF had just started. We had just came back from Kosovo. A lot of turmoil, a lot of trying to figure out, how are we going to take care of soldiers? We've got too much dwell time. We've got too much deployment time. How do we do this? How do we do that? And so there was a commander filled with the I don't knows. That would be me. So the sergeant major came in, and we had so there's a lot of screwing around. We had a sergeant major with us at the time. And I'm sitting there one morning, we're trying to get ready and trying to put a troop list together to get it ready to deploy within 120 days. And I'm sitting there one morning, and all of a sudden there's a different electricity in the air. Okay? And so I turned to the XO, who's usually a glum to begin with, okay? And I said, hey, what's going on? He goes, hey, sir, the new sergeant major's here. I go, he's a day early. He goes, I know, you know? And, but there was an excitement. There was an energy going on. There was Smiling Mac. And he's coming down the hallway, and it was all positive. But there was one word that kept going over and over and over again, even on day 1, and that was standards. He must have said the word 1,000 times. You know what I mean? He passed by the J1. Oh, sorry, J1. I've been in the building too long. He passed by the S1, and he'd say, hey, I need to see the standards for awards. I want to see the troop list. I want to see the standards for PT. I want to see the standards, the standards, the standards, the standards. So I'm prepping myself. He says, I want to see the standards to be a battalion commander. You might not make it. So, but fortunately, since he was an academy grad or something, he didn't do that. But there was a new excitement in the air. There was a new commitment that all this turmoil that we were going through, all of a sudden, there was a new zeal. Okay, and a new commitment. The family started to feel better about themselves because there was a new sheriff in town. There was a new guy by the name of McPherson that says, I don't know how hard it's going to get, but I'm going to be there with you and I'm going to be leading it. I then left command, and about a year or two later, had the privilege of coming back and commanding that same brigade. Mac had been promoted up to be the brigade sergeant major, so it was going to be a great treat for me, and we came in at the same time. And as fate would have it, we were preparing once again to deploy back into Iraq. Now this time it was a little bit different because we'd had multiple deployments, but this time it was during the surge, and now it was going to be a 15-month deployment. And so there was a lot of meetings on that, a lot of meetings on how we're going to handle that with troops, what are going to be entitlements, all those things that you were probably all part of and you understand, and how you're going to deal with the families, okay? So we deploy, we get through all of that. Mac gets us through it with the same zeal and energy, and he drags me there. And then we get there. And I can remember we were about at the 9-month mark. And it was pretty hard. We had some pretty tough suckers. But at the 9-month mark, you saw a little dip in morale. You know, because usually at the 9-month mark, at the prior deployments, you only had 90 days to go. Okay, and so now the countdown. The officers didn't do that, of course, but everyone else was doing it. But we had 90 days to go. Well, now we got 6 months to go. Okay? And so soldiers that had already taken their leave way back when, this is getting kind of hard. So there was a lot of meetings that were taking place, and rightly so. Sergeant majors in theater and the commanders in theater were trying to get together to figure out how are we going to hold this group together. This is a tough haul. And a lot of these guys are in really tough sectors. Well, I went to a bunch of meetings, and I was going to have a command and staff meeting on a Wednesday night. And I've been doing my homework, so I come back, and I've got all these plans. I've got all these great ideas. I'm the new great idea guy. And so I come in, and I'm sitting there, and the commanders are there, and the sergeant majors are there, and the staff. And I start laying out, hey, guys, I know where we're at. Here's what we've kind of done our assessment. Here's kind of the thoughts that's coming out of MNFI. Here's what's coming out of the Corps. Here's what's coming out of the division. And more importantly, here's my thoughts on what we need to do. And so I'm laying these programs out. Now, of all the things that Mac does well, he doesn't have a poker face. And so I'm sitting there, of course, the battalion commanders, all they want is a top block, so they're writing away, and they're doing over. And the staff is like, well, okay, maybe. But I look over at Mac, and Mac's got the smile, but he ain't got the zeal in the eyes. There's kind of doing one of these things, but he's looking at me like, you should bounce that off of me a little bit before we done this. As fate would have it, a couple hours later, we got a call from one of our northern platoons, our companies, that had been in a tough engagement, and they suffered a lot of casualties. So I was talking to the company commander, and he was a tough company commander, and they had been in a tough fight in the past. But this time I heard a little quiver in his voice. You could see that he was tired, he was shaky. Talked to the first sergeant, you could see that they were starting to shake a little bit. Their nerve was shaking. So I said, this was like on a Wednesday evening. Friday morning I was due to go up to visit that company. And I said, okay, I'm going to try and come up to see you tomorrow. Well, the weather was bad, I couldn't fly. So I stayed on schedule. Of course, Mac is able to figure out how to get a flight and get up there, okay? So he's got all his contacts, the sergeant majors all over the place, and all of a sudden I just go into sector and I get a call here, and hey, the sergeant major's up north. I go, well, how the hell did he get up north? And why didn't he take me? You know, no room for you. But you go ahead. You go ahead and fight the fight there in the embassy in Baghdad. I'll deal with the IEDs. And so Mac goes north. The weather changes. I do some talking to the division. Division commander gives me one of his birds to go up, and I go up the next morning. Now I'm armed with my programs, okay? Because now there's going to be proof and principle. I'm going to put it to the test right here with this first unit. At the 9-month mark, they took in a big hit, and let's see if it works. So I go up there. And I get out there, and Sergeant Mac, nobody's there at the airfield, but Sergeant Mac sends his driver out there, go pick up the colonel if he shows up. And so I showed up, he picks me up, and I get there. And so I go in to talk to see the unit, and all of a sudden, I don't see a unit that's been beat up. There's no unit beat up. They're a little down, okay? But this is a unit that's now focused. It's got resolve. It's doing what it can to get back into those trucks. And this was done by power of personality. This wasn't done by one of Spindler's stupid plans. This was done by years and years of the art of leadership behind those chevrons. And he was kind of saying, Spindler, you know what? I'm going up there because I don't want to go up there with your plan. I want to go up there and be with them because that's what they need. That's what they need. They need me to be there with them. And I can remember the security team that came out and met us. And I sat there and I was watching him talk to the platoons and the squads, each one of them. And I sat there and there was never a prouder moment for me as a commander to say, that's my sergeant major. Look at him run. That is leadership. At that particular point, I decided to keep those notes tucked in and maybe not pull those out and just let the sergeant major do his thing. But and I turned to these guys and I said, there's the mentorship of how you should lead. Guys, what I got in my pocket is the science of leadership, I think. What you're seeing right there is the art of leadership and how it should be done. The difference between what makes good soldiers and good leaders and great ones. And I had the privilege of serving with a great one. I need to turn this over to you and shut up, Sergeant Major. But I want to tell you one last thing. I called Mac the other day, and I said, hey, Mac, what are you doing? And he says, hey, I'm pulling down my trophies and my plaques for the last time, and I'm boxing them up. I said, you are? He said, yeah, I'm going to box them up. And I said, if you'll allow me for the last time, Sergeant Major, to attempt to try and correct you, which I have not been very successful in the past. But you weren't packing up any trophies at all. At best, at very best, you were packing up mementos. Little trinkets that you and I, when we're sitting in our adult diaper in the old soldier home, will remind us of those times in those trucks. Because the real trophies of Mac McPherson are now squad leaders. They're now first sergeants and platoon leaders and company commanders out in those trucks in Afghanistan. They're standing in guard mount to the standard in all our garrisons, putting their life on the line. And they're doing it with a great zeal and with a great smile. And they're doing it to standard, the way they were taught to do it by Mac McPherson. It's been a privilege to serve with you, Mac.
Ladies and gentlemen, the former Program Executive Office Soldier, Command Sergeant Major Bernard McPherson, United States Army, retired.
Also, I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, here I am, send me. As General George Washington said at the Newburgh Convention, if you would allow me or permit me to put my spectacles on, for I have grown not only great and bald, but almost blind in the service of my country. Sergeant Major Army and Mrs. Chandler, Major General Proctor, Brigadier General Ostrowski, Colonel Spindler, Miss Miller, Mr. Smith, Command Sergeant Major and Mrs. Maunakea, Command Sergeants Majors, Cuffey, Brock, Turnbull, Seaman Sims, Command Sergeant Major retired, the Lion of Baghdad, Mellinger, Sergeants Majors Broxton, McMillan, Chance, non-commissioned officers, distinguished guests, and the PEO soldier family, good morning and thanks for attending. As I look out there, I'm going to kind of break a little bit. I see members of my church family. And you guys just stand up a second. Thank you very much for sharing. Appreciate that. It means a lot. I also see friends, Fred, Lynn, all you guys out there, you know, okay. Thank you very much. Frank, hometown. Okay. Appreciate you guys taking the time to come up. It really means a lot. And thank you so very much. Cliff, I'm still going to use that divot mark on you guys. All right, let's get back to business. I would first like to thank my Lord and Savior, who is truly responsible for all that I have become. And without him, this moment would not exist. Command Sergeant Major Maunakea, congratulations, brother. You and Angie have inherited a great organization that will go the extra mile for you. Good luck, my friend, and fair winds. Thanks to my brother and pastor for the invocation and my son for the national anthem. Appreciate it, guys. I would also like to thank the Operations and Communications Directorate. You guys are absolutely excellent. I congratulate you on this flawless ceremony. Today, I'm again reminded by the words of President and General Dwight D. Eisenhower when he said, humility must always be the portion of any man who receives acclaim, earned in the blood of his followers and the sacrifices of his friends. So now I would ask you to pause for a moment of silence in honor of those whose blood and sacrifices made it possible for me to stand before you today. Thank you very much. I would now like to honor my family. My wife, Margie, who's always been there for me, regardless of the situation and circumstance, honey. And you've been the perfect wife and a mother to my son. My son, BJ, like I said yesterday, other than the Son of God himself, a man cannot ask for a better son. You've truly made me proud. To my brother and pastor, Carl B. McPherson, Command Sergeant Major retired. Brother, thanks for showing me the way. You've always been there and you've always led by example. You and your wife, Jeanette, God bless her soul, have contributed to this day. My sister, Joanne, she's been a surrogate mother to me. Sis, you're the greatest. And to my brother-in-law, Reverend Abram, Joe, you've been a friend and a confidant. But most of all, you've been a great brother-in-law. Brigadier General Ostrowski, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to, the tokens over here. Good, good, good.
And I want to say what I want to say. Thank you for being the first wife. I've admired the effort and the dedication that you have committed to our soldiers and their families. As a Command Sergeant Major's wife, I tell my husband all the time, they never gave us a book on how to do what we do. We decide what we do and we make it work. So on behalf of 1.1 million soldiers and their families, I want to thank you for your support, and I will continue to pray as you support our great military.
Brigadier General Ostrowski, my thanks to you goes out. You kept me on board. You didn't have to do it. We serve at the will of our general officers. And you kept me on board for the last 90 days, sir. It's been a privilege to serve with you. And I will never forget those things that we covered. A lot can happen. It's not about time, what goes on between those lines. So, sir, thank you very much. And you've been a dynamic role model. To the Sergeant Major of our Army, to the first soldier, and thanks for always being there, Sergeant Major. What people don't know, you've been supporting PEO soldiers before you got up to the Pentagon. I remember, Sergeant Major Melger remembered too as well. When I called you when you were the Commandant, Sergeant Major, I need your help. And I saw Major Melger look at me. You remember? I appreciate that. You bailed us out then, and you're continuing to bail us out now. When this position, man, Sergeant Major, was on the chopping block, you can't build force structure anymore. We're doing this, not this. You needed a bill pair for this to stay on board. We came up with a plan. Sergeant Major of the Army says, I approved that plan. He told his guy, slate the position. Sergeant Major, I'm indebted to you. Thank you very much. Colonel Spindler, thanks for officiating the ceremony. And you were an outstanding battlefield commander and mentor. And I'm proud to call you a friend. You all have my bio, and I don't know if you read it or not. Some of you all, I doubt it. If you did, you'll probably say, wow, wow, and some will say, well, so what? My point is that you'll see the story in that bio. Oh, you'll see the glory, but you don't know the story. That's what I want to say. You'll see the glory in that bio, but you don't know my story. Almost 33 years ago, after graduating high school and completing 3 years of college, I lost my mother to cancer. In order to assist in paying for my last year of college, I joined the United States Army Reserve. I went to basic training and AIT during the summer, figuring I would come back to school and do weekend drills and complete college and get a job. But as fate would have it, during the transition from basic training to AIT, I received a call from the Red Cross telling me that my mother had taken a turn for the worse and that I needed to come home. Well, I did, and I got there just in time to see her before she passed. After the funeral, I had no interest in going back to school. My sister, right there, she took me in to live with her. I literally recluded from society for about 3 to 4 months. I was angry at God and seeking an answer on why it would take such a great lady. I sat for almost 3 months doing nothing but drinking Old English beer, y'all know about that, and smoking Newport cigarettes. She said nothing. She knew what I was going through. So I was thinking one day the bell rung, says, look, guy, you got to get up. I had to do something. I had to begin to take care of myself, which was a promise I made to my mother. I thought basic training in AIT was not so bad. In fact, I loved it. So immediately I transferred from the reserves to the regular Army, and I never looked back. My bio picks up from there. But what you won't find in the bio are the many individuals, too numerous to list, that reached out to me. What you won't find is the many, many prayers that were prayed on my behalf by people that I don't even know. Well, following the deployment in 0405 with the battalion, I returned home. And my sister went to church with my sister. And so you know what they do. I got back and she said, stand up. Stood up. And she pointed at me and she said, you all, this is the brother that I've been asking you to pray for in this past year. I had no idea. And here he is, and thank you for your prayers. I said, wow. I redeployed with the 18th Infantry Brigade. Colonel Spindler was the commander, and I was his command sergeant major. Yeah, we had the third largest force in Iraq, second to FI, MNCI, and the 18th Military Police Brigade. We were, our battle space covered everything to the west, Anbar Province, To the east was Camp Caldwell, to the north was Telefar, and south was Boswell. So we took a lot of hits. We took a lot of hits, to include our headquarters. But you never waned or faltered, and nor did you allow us to do that. You're a man of faith, courage, and honor. Thank you for coming here today and doing what you did. I really appreciate that. And tell Ellen I love her as well. So what now, Sergeant Major? What now? You are retired. Well, now I transition to prepare for another mission. People often ask me, what are you going to do now, Sergeant Major? My response is always and will always be positive. It's positive because after all that I've been through, I still have joy, faith, and those same prayers that I spoke about earlier, because God hasn't changed. I truly believe that it will be better, I will be better than all right, and God will attend to the desires of my heart. Now, I'll prepare to close here, as my brother would say. But I can't fail. I got a great family. I'm okay. I'm okay. Don't worry about Sergeant Major. You'll be all right. But what I want you to know, that it's been the ultimate privilege to have worn the nation's cloth in service to the greatest nation on earth, and beside the greatest soldiers to have ever walked upon the battlefield. I will continue to defend the soldier until the day I draw my last breath. You all have not seen, or books have not been written, or stories about the courage of our warriors on the battlefield. And I will defend that soldier again until I draw my last breath. Non-commissioned officers, never allow them to forget. We are the backbone of the Army. Professionals, non-commissioned officers, leaders. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for battle and my fingers for war. Thank you for listening to my thoughts. It's not over yet. For the Army song, y'all can sit down, relax. I got a little tweet. A little tribute to my wife, if you don't mind. Thanks for the times that you've given me. The memories are all in my mind.
All right.
And now that we've come to the end of our rainbow, there's something that I must say out loud. You're once, twice,
Go ahead, Sergeant.
3 times a lady.
All right.
I love you.
Thank you.